World Cup 2022. It was a World Cup like no other. An underdog bursting onto the scene, one goat feeling tearful while another was feeling joyful. France breaking the champions' curse, the greatest final ever. But I am phlegmatic enough to tell you that there's even a better World Cup than that. Ladies and gentlemen, lads and lasses, I introduce you to the 2014 FIFA World Cup in Brazil. It's the first game of the tournament in Sao Paulo, and Brazil are finding themselves 1-0 down thanks to an error from Marcelo. What can they do now? Unleash beast mode. And with that, Brazil unleashed beast mode and the game ended. It's the first game of Group B and it's Spain vs Netherlands. Around 25 minutes into the game, Diego Costa gets fouled in the box. Xabi Alonso converts the penalty and Spain take the lead. Spain around this time were the kings of the pitch. They had won back-to-back Euros in 2008 and 2012 and had also won the World Cup in 2010, beating the Netherlands in extra time. However, the Dutch came back with a vengeance, and in the 44th minute just before half-time, Robin van Persie turned into the Flying Dutchman. The Dutch were desperate to get their revenge on the Spanish who had beaten them in the World Cup final 4 years ago. 2 goalkeeping errors from Casillas, and the Dutch capitalise. By the end of the game, the Netherlands had completely humbled and humiliated the World Cup holders. England vs Italy, 2 European nations facing each other in Group D. Italy took the lead after a lovely shot from Marchisio, but England quickly equalised with a tap-in from Daniel Sturridge. Mario Balotelli, however, headed it in the 50th minute and destroyed England's confidence. Italy won and was delighted, but England was devastated. In this game, Portugal turned up relatively strongly. Their starting 11 consisted of Rui Patricio, Pepe, Fabio Contrao, João Moutinho, Nani and Cristiano Ronaldo. But on the pitch they were unable to focus and almost conceded in the most embarrassing way after a goalkeeping error. But then the first goal came after a penalty in the 12th minute. Then the cross came in and Hummels headed in the second. And just before half-time, Thomas Müller scored the third after some awful Portuguese defending. Half-time, 3-0. It wasn't looking good for Portugal. To make matters worse for them, Pepe was sent off in the 37th minute after a headbutt on Thomas Müller, and the referee denied them a penalty in the second half. This hat-trick by Thomas Müller was the icing on the cake. Germany battered Portugal 4-0. In their second game, Brazil expected to continue their win streak and beat the Mexicans. But after all those saves done by Ochoa, he kept the game level and saved his home nation from trouble. After clobbering the Spanish, the Dutch were set to take on their next opponent, Australia. The Dutch opened the score with Arjen Robben's sublime pace to find the back of the net. But the Aussies quickly responded with a strike from Tim Cahill. And then they were awarded a penalty after a handball in the box. The Dutch were behind, but Van Persie was there to equalise. And then Memphis Depay hit it beautifully to seal the victory. Netherlands might have won, but both national teams performed spectacularly. Over to the Spanish now, and in their second game, they lost 2-0 to Chile. The first goal came from Vargas in under 20 minutes. And then the second from Charles Aranguis after the keeper tried to clear it and it landed right on his feet. This was a game they should have at least drawn. They had missed 2 golden opportunities, and the defending champions became the fallen champions. Spain had 1 more game left, but it didn't matter. The champions were out. After losing to Brazil 3-1 in their first game, Croatia needed to get their World Cup in motion. So, in their upcoming game against Cameroon, here's what they did. 4 goals and a red card for Song after elbowing Mandzukic. Croatia treated Cameroon the same way Germany treated Portugal. After losing their first game to Italy, England had to beat Uruguay in order to keep their hopes alive. However, a header from Luis Suarez was not what they needed, and after so many trials and tribulations, they equalised. But within 10 minutes, Suarez scored a brilliant second to win it for Uruguay. Another big European nation going home early. The 3 Lions were out. This specific match was breathtaking from start to finish. Argentina had so many chances, but they were all saved by the Iranian goalkeeper. But alas, in the 91st minute, a shot went in. Lionel Messi had just struck the ball in the net to win Argentina the game. No wonder he's one of the greatest of all time. In Group H, there weren't that many interesting matches to look forward to, but this match between South Korea and Algeria was rather interesting. Algeria was first to open the score sheet with Slimani, and then scored again just 2 minutes after. Next, they scored a third after some terrible South Korean defending. But South Korea eventually got it together and got one back. Only for Algeria to score again after some brilliant link-up play. South Korea managed to score again to make it 2-4 and the 6-goal thriller. What a match! Over to the Spanish for one last time, and in their final game, they faced Australia. Spain's star man David Villa was finally included on the starting 11, and for once, Spain actually dominated. Perhaps that was the main reason why Spain flopped, because David Villa hadn't started in either Netherlands or Chile. Spain won 3-0, but much like Italy in 2010, the champions' curse is truly alive. This was the deciding game of who was going to advance to the second round, Italy or Uruguay. In this match, Buffon made some amazing saves, Marquisio got sent off, and Uruguay scored a late goal. But those weren't the biggest talking points coming from that match. Suarez bit Chiellini on the shoulder, the 3rd time he bit a footballer, and received the longest ban in World Cup history. Banned for 9 international matches, banned from taking any football-related activity including entering any stadium for 4 months, and was fined 100,000 Swiss francs. That hefty ban automatically caused Suarez to miss all of Uruguay's remaining World Cup matches, meaning that Uruguay would have to carry on without their main man. Over to Portugal for a moment, and their World Cup campaign wasn't going well. They had lost their first game and drew their second, meaning they had to win against Ghana in order to keep their hopes alive. An own goal by the Ghanaian defender certainly helped, but unfortunately for Portugal, Asamoah Gyan managed to equalise. Ronaldo would later find the chance to score and to give Portugal the all-important victory, but they would soon find out that it wasn't enough. Portugal would finish 3rd, with 4 points to their name, beaten to 2nd on goal difference. Which country beaten to 2nd on goal difference? The United States.
Catch a case, don't snitch, that's Mando. Ride for your click, that's Mando. Rope hit a lick, that's Mando. Always with the shits, that's Mando. Hey, that's Mando. Nigga, that's Mando. Toy. Hey, that's Mando. Nigga, that's Mando.
this is how the table looked after the first 3 group games. Host Brazil topped the group with Mexico alongside them. Netherlands won all 3 games with current holders Spain falling at the first hurdle and Australia wasting all their potential and scoring 0 points. Colombia breezed through their group, while a last gasp penalty for Greece sends them through to the knockout stage. Costa Rica shock everyone and top their group ahead of Uruguay, while Italy and England book an early flight home. France and Switzerland set the record straight. Argentina get a 100% record in the group stage, whilst Nigeria ensures a knockout spot for themselves. In Group G, Germany are the ones on top, and as mentioned before, the United States beat Portugal to second on goal difference and secure a last 16 spot for themselves. Belgium makes it look easy, and a draw against Russia is enough for Algeria to advance to the second round. It was the first game of the round of 16 and it was Brazil vs Chile. Brazil took the lead with David Luiz, but Alexis Sanchez was there to equalise for Chile and make the stadium practically silenced. After a crossbar hit from Pinilla during extra time, the game went to penalties. The first player to step up was David Luiz, and he struck it home. Pinilla, who after hitting the crossbar has now missed the first penalty. Willian and Sanchez were next in line to take a penalty, and they both missed. The pressure was too great for either Brazil or Chile to cope. Marcelo played it cool whilst Arangues literally stuck the ball in the goal net, and after Hulk missed and Diaz scored, Neymar had to score. Crisis averted, and after the last penalty taker missed, Brazil scraped through a stressful penalty shootout and made it through to the quarter-finals. After knocking out the Italians in the group stage, the Uruguayans faced a strong Colombian side who dispatched Greece, Ivory Coast and Japan to win all 3 games and top Group C. The first goal came from James Rodriguez, who struck it beautifully. Truly, one of the greatest goals ever scored at a World Cup. The second came from James again after an assist from Cuadrado. Colombia won the game as James continues to carry his national team to glory. Picture this, it's Netherlands versus Mexico. The score is 1-1 after 2 brilliant long shots from both sides. It's stoppage time and Arjen Robben gets fouled in the box. Huntelaar converts to send the Dutch through, but then the Mexicans, along with the rest of the world, realised that Robben dived. From this match came the infamous quote, "No era penal," meaning that it wasn't a penalty. Arjen Robben sent his country through by cheating, and became public enemy number 1 in Mexico. So, the Costa Rica team, after shocking the world by beating Uruguay, Italy, and then drawing against England to finish on top of Group D, played a Greek team who had lost 3-0 to Colombia, drew against Japan, and then beat the Ivory Coast after a last gasp penalty to send them through. Costa Rica scored a doddle, with Greece later equalising in the dying minutes. After 120 minutes of football, the game was decided by penalties. First player to step up was Costa Rica's Celso Borges. He looks at the spot and he scores. Both sides scored amazing penalties until Greece's 4th kick. Fanis Gekas and Keylor Navas were teammates at Levante, and so Navas knew where Gekas was likely to shoot. This is the last penalty. If Costa Rica scores this, the Greeks will be out. Michael Umania steps up and scores. It was a delightful day for Costa Rica, but for Greece, it was devastating. So France made it past the group stage after smashing the likes of Honduras, Switzerland, and then drew with Ecuador to finish top with 7 points, facing a Nigerian side who had drawn their first game against Iran, won against Bosnia-Herzegovina, and then played a dramatic game against Argentina to lose 2-3, but still managed to go through with 4 points. France took the lead rather late in the match after an error from Nigerian keeper Anyama allowed Pogba to score a header. Then, after some teamwork between Benzema and Valbuena allowed France to score a second, albeit an own goal by Nigerian defender Yobov. And that's how the game ended. 2-0. France went through, Nigeria went home. Die Mannschaft, after bossing everyone in Group G, faced Algeria. Germany had so many chances in both the first and second half, but for some reason, they could not score. The game had gone to extra time and finally Germany scored after a clever tap-in from André Schürrle. The Algerian defence tried everything they could to defend against the German attack, but eventually cracked, and the only thing they could pull off was a consolation goal. Algeria went out and were absolutely devastated. After getting a 100% record in the group stage, the Argentines faced the Swiss in the round of 16. In this game, Argentina dominated, but much like Germany against Algeria, they could not find the ball in the net. The game had gone to extra time, and after so many chances, Di Maria wins it. Before the final whistle, the Swiss missed a golden chance, and after the final whistle blew, the Swiss were shattered. After beating Portugal to second, the United States came across a forceful Belgian team who had passed Group H without breaking a sweat. During the game, Tim Howard made some important saves at the death, and the United States missed a golden chance to win it. After 90 undecided minutes of football, the game had gone to extra time. Belgium finally managed to put themselves 1-0 up after some shaky US defending. And after Lukaku smashed it home, it looked like all hope was lost for the US. But then, just 2 minutes later, Julian Green had a decent finish to make it 2-1. However, after another opportunity missed, the Eagles were out of the World Cup. So here's how things stood after the round of 16. Brazil, after a heart-rending penalty shootout, would be facing Colombia in the quarter-finals. Le Bleu and Die Mannschaft will cross swords like the good old days. Costa Rica are set to continue their good form against the Netherlands, and Argentina and Belgium, after taking both of their last 16 games to extra time, are facing one another in the last 8. Brazil were ready to face their next opponent, fellow South American country, Colombia. After the cross came from a corner, the captain of Brazil, Thiago Silva, scored. Fast forward into the second half, and after a free kick, Colombia thought they equalised. But the flag was already raised seconds ago and it was disallowed. Colombia was struggling to keep up, and after a foul on Hulk by James Rodriguez, David Luiz scored an insane free kick that made the Brazilian fans in the stands go mad. Julio Cesar, however, made an error and gave Colombia a penalty, which James scored. 2-1 so far, but it wasn't all fine and dandy for Brazil. Earlier in the match, Thiago Silva fouled Ospina and was now suspended, and Neymar, after so many grueling challenges he had to face against the Colombian players, this knee in the back left him injured and ruled out of Brazil's upcoming match. At the end of the game, James Rodriguez was left in tears as his home nation was dumped out of the World Cup. As a mark of sympathy and sportsmanship in the beautiful game, David Luiz went up to him not only to console him, but to also swap shirts with him. This is football, ladies and gentlemen. Respect. France versus Germany. Two big European rivals set to take on one another. Germany was the first to take the lead early in the game. France was then looking for an equaliser, but Manuel Neuer was never going to let one in. At the end of the game, Neuer kept his third clean sheet of the tournament, and Germany advanced to the semi-finals. After beating Greece on penalties, Costa Rica were looking set to continue their good form, and in their quarter-final match, they faced Netherlands. Throughout the game, Costa Rica was actually holding the scoreline pretty well. A couple of scares, but they kept them out. Then, just before the game headed to penalties, the Netherlands made the odd decision to substitute the goalkeeper. Did it work? Well, I'll show you what happened. As you can see, it clearly worked. Tim Krul moved the Dutch to the semi. It's the final game of the quarters, Argentina versus Belgium. In the match, Argentina took the lead quite early after a deflection from Jan Vertonghen. Afterwards, Argentina were searching for a second goal but couldn't find it, vice versa for Belgium, who were trying to find an equaliser but all to no avail. The final whistle blew. Argentina went through, Belgium went home. So here's the countries who passed to the semi-finals. Brazil looked set to beat the Germans and reach the final, whilst the Netherlands and Argentina duke it out for a spot in the final. So, it looked like Brazil was ready to win the World Cup at home.
We're hitting the Brazil world, we do it our way, representing the world. We're talking replay, I'm not gonna sing it till I see you got your hands up. Sing it, sing it,
But when they played the semi-final match against Germany, Brazil's World Cup campaign metamorphosed into a tragedy. Germany scored 3 goals in 4 minutes, and Brazil were 5-0 down in under half an hour. In the second half, it seemed that the torture had stopped, but then André Schürrle got on the score sheet. And then added a brilliant 7th after smashing the woodwork. Oscar managed to score a late goal for Brazil, but the 1-7 scoreline will live on as the most humiliating defeat in both Brazilian history and World Cup history. It is another big match, Netherlands versus Argentina. Both countries who snatched victory at their previous knockout matches are now facing each other. The biggest moment of the entire game was Palacios' header, but after 120 minutes of football, the game would be decided by penalties. Throughout the penalty shootout, it should be noted that the Netherlands made a few errors. The first was to send a defender to take the first pen. The second was that they used all 3 substitutes available and couldn't perform the same trick by subbing the goalkeeper off. This would prove to be crucial, as after Schneider's penalty miss, Cillessen had to save Rodriguez's kick. But all to no avail, as Netherlands lose on penalties and Argentina have reached the final. So, after 62 matches played in total so far, and only 4 of the 32 countries remaining in the tournament, let's have one final look. Germany and Argentina are within an inch of becoming World Cup champions, but only one of them will succeed, whilst Brazil and Netherlands battled for third. Continuing the theme of Brazil's World Cup campaign turning into tragedy, in the third place match, they faced Netherlands. Thiago Silva pulled Robben down and gave Netherlands a penalty in under 5 minutes. Then, after some awful clearing by David Luiz, opened the door for Daley Blind to score a second. After a while, it looked like Brazil had regained their composure and actually had a few shots on target. But their fate was sealed in the 91st minute after Wijnaldum scored the third. And with that, Brazil's hopes of winning the World Cup in their own back garden were gone. So this was it. The World Cup final between Germany and Argentina. Two titanic international football teams battling it out at the Maracanã Stadium in Rio de Janeiro to see who will be the World Cup champion. The crowd waits in anticipation as the referee blows his whistle to kick off the match. The first big chance of the game came from Argentina as Higuain missed a shot that was handed to him on a plate by the opposition. Higuain had another chance to score, and this time the ball did go in the back of the net, only to be offside. Germany was next to find a way to score. Haldez came so close yet so far after hitting the post. The Argentines would not let the Germans catch a breath. Shot after shot after shot, Germany had to do something about it, and so they did. Before extra time, they subbed off Miroslav Klose for Mario Götze with the hope that this could work. Argentina was getting really close, but finally, the chance came. Mario Götze, the super sub, scored the winner in the World Cup final. Argentina had one last chance. Messi had to make this free kick count, but fluffed it, and not long after, the final whistle blew. Alas, there is an end to the story. A light at the end of the tunnel. Germany are the 2014 World Cup champions in Brazil. Guys, thank you so much for watching my 2014 World Cup video. It means a lot. I've been working on the project since July 2025 and I'm finally uploading it on YouTube today. That's about, 11 months I would say? But at least I put in the time and the effort for you guys to enjoy it as much as possible. Anyway, with the 2026 World Cup just around the corner, tell me in the comments which country do you think will win this year's World Cup. But for now, take care. Bye.